Well, the internet is going wild after years.
Barron Trump, once the silent member of the family, has stunned the world with a bold move. For years he stayed out of the spotlight, letting his famous family take center stage, but now something's changed. What could have prompted him to speak up? After all this time, has he finally found his voice, or is this just the beginning of something bigger? The moment has arrived, and everyone is left wondering what comes next for the youngest Trump. Quiet way Barron Trump has always been interesting to me. Barron made a very different choice than his famous brothers, who were confident and charming in public and like being the center of attention. Strange things and silence marked his way. It is very uncommon for a child from one of the most famous families in the world to have such a bad name. The rest of the Trump family has been doing well in public, so why has Barron been so quiet? It's simple to separate Barron's early years. Barron's childhood seemed calmer and more private, while Ivanka, Donald Jr., and Eric, Trump's older children, were dressed up for the public. Barron didn't stand out, even though he lived in the fancy Trump Tower and then the White House. A big difference between him and his brothers was that he liked being in the background. His brothers were always on TV, at political events, or in glossy magazine pieces. People were more interested because of this difference. Why didn't Barron go on stage with the other people in public? He sometimes stood tall and far away, his face cool and hard to read. People had a lot of ideas after seeing these rare events in the news. Was he just not talking? Did the fact that he was quiet say something about him, or did his family choose to keep him away from the chaos of fame? There are people who think that Barron's parents, especially Melania Trump, did a lot to keep him safe. Melania has always made sure her kid has a normal life. A lot of people know her for being very watchful, even though she was First Lady. Barron's privacy was very important to her. She didn't let him get involved in politics very often. Not many people paid attention to Barron. His brothers, on the other hand, were thrown into the family business or political campaigns when they were young. Some people think that Barron is naturally quiet. There are people who don't want to be in the center, even if everyone else is for Barron. All the talk and focus on the name Trump might not have been that interesting because he came from a famous family. He may have wanted a slower life where he could focus on his own interests instead of doing what other people expected of him. Even though he is quiet, people are still talking. Things have changed. Barron is more interesting when he doesn't say much. People always have a lot of ideas when someone does something strange in public. To get a sense of the younger Trump's personality, people watch his face, body language, and even how he talks to his family. Barron's silence is another interesting way to compare the two. His brother's words got a lot of attention, but his name stands out even though he doesn't say much. People today like noise and attention, so Barron has stayed a mystery, someone who is quiet in the middle of one of the noisiest homes on earth. How does someone raised in silence and scrutiny decide to break free and redefine their role in the spotlight? Barron Trump's life changed when he turned 18. He had been quiet in public for a long time. The world no longer saw him as a young boy living with a famous family. He had all the responsibilities and demands that come with being an adult. Barron saw this turning point a chance to accept who he was as more than just getting older. Turning 18 is a big deal for everyone, but for Barron it also meant a lot of stress. He had a lot of attention as a child because he was the youngest member of the Trump family. Every word, movement, and pause was looked at, but when he was a child there was a wall. His silence, then just family. The outside world was also important, even though politics are moving quickly. The name Trump is still all over the news. These outside factors could have changed Barron's time. He might have felt driven to talk about a certain topic, a public issue, a time in politics, or even a personal story that fit with bigger events. What's interesting is that this event didn't just happen before it. There were some weak signs in the past year. Barron had been making more public appearances, and each one led to reports about how well known he was becoming. His behavior changed. He seemed sure of himself more. Small things like the way he acted or the random exchanges that were caught on camera showed that someone was getting ready to come out of the shadows. Barron's choice to finally speak out seemed like the end of years of silence. He had spent his whole life taking in everything he saw, heard, and felt. Having grown up, he now knew he had a voice too, and that it was time to use it. Barron Trump had a moment, but it was also a turning point in his quest to find a place for himself in a world that had always expected him to keep quiet. Barron Trump's response, even though it was short, was strong enough to shock everyone. People paid attention to what he said, even though he had been quiet for a long time. He didn't use ciphers or short phrases when he talked. It was clear, straight, and left no room for interpretation. However, what he said was not what really had an effect. It was everything he said. A lot of people were interested in what he said right away. Different news sites fought over each phrase, trying to figure out what it meant. People on social media ranged from being impressed to being shocked. Some saw it as a statement of freedom, like a young man finally stepping out from under his dad's wings. Some saw it as a direct threat to the Trump family's long-standing relationships and values. Barron's voice was no longer a whisper. No matter what the reading was, years of silence have shaped the way Barron Trump acts. Today's silence can either stress someone out or provide clarity. For Barron, it may have offered a chance to reflect away from the noise of his family's public life and gain a clearer perspective on the world around him. On the other hand, this quiet period might have fostered a sense of isolation even within his own family. Now, as he begins to step into the spotlight, the world is only starting to grasp the depth of his quiet demeanor. Barron's silent years were more than just a phase. They were pivotal in shaping who he is. These were formative times when he deliberately chose to distance himself from the noise, carving out his own identity within a family known for their outspoken and candid nature, shaking the Trump family to its core. Barron Trump's recent statement sent shockwaves through the Trump family, causing significant disruption. It wasn't just a comment, it marked a turning point in family dynamics, profoundly altering the inner workings of their relationships. The public was shocked, but the impact behind closed doors was even greater. Barron's words might have signaled a shift in the Trump family dynamics. Growing up in such a high-profile family is challenging, and Barron has largely remained in the background. Yet the moment he spoke, questions arose. Was this his way of asserting his independence, a response to years of silence, or an act of defiance? Whatever the reason, the ramifications were immediate and far-reaching. The Trump name itself plays a pivotal role here. The family's public image, meticulously crafted through years of business and political maneuvering, has always depended on unity. Barron's remarks could either enhance or undermine that image. How will the public interpret his actions? Will they see them as a courageous assertion of independence or as a rebellion against his family's legacy? Time will reveal how the Trump family and Barron navigate this uncharted Territory due a new chapter for Barron Trump following Barron Trump TR's unexpected statement one pressing question remains: is this the beginning of a lasting transformation for most of his life? Barron has remained a largely invisible figure, quietly observing as his family thrived in the public eye. With this bold statement, however, he has signaled his readiness to stand out, even if it means redefining how both his family and the world perceive him. Could this mark the start of a new journey for Barron? Many are eager to know what lies ahead. Does he have aspirations in politics like his father, or will he carve out a completely new path? The Trump name is deeply intertwined with American politics, but Barron has the unique opportunity to pursue a life of his choosing, unburdened by the expectations that shaped his father's trajectory. Barron's decision to speak out also reflects a broader trend among younger generations today. More than ever, young people are challenging the norms established by previous generations and striving to assert their individuality. Barron's actions resonate with this desire to make his own mark, separate from the legacy of his influential family. It prompts reflection on how even those born into privilege and power are rethinking their futures. For Barron, this could be a defining moment. The one silent observer now has a voice that demands attention. It could be the beginning of his journey toward self-discovery, shaping how the world views him and how he views himself. Will he continue to advocate for his beliefs, or will he retreat into the quiet life he once knew? Opinions vary on what Barron should do next. After years of observation, many have been waiting to hear from him. What does this mean for Barron? Will he build on this moment, or let it stand as a singular statement? The world is watching closely, eager to see what the youngest Trump will do next. Barron's actions could significantly influence the Trump family's legacy. Whether he chooses to stay out of the public narrative or become an active participant, his decisions will shape perceptions of his family's future. By stepping forward, Barron Trump has opened new doors. Only time will tell where they